Yep. Okay, I call this meeting to order at 6 p.m. Would you please stand?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So I'd like to note that Commissioner Muchler is excused and might be joining here by Zoom. Commissioner Coltenfeld is on Zoom and Commissioner Morales is running late. Having said all that, staff will please call the roll. Jake Chadwick.
Here.
Eamon Collins.
Here.
Liz Garrow. Here. Joe Ellenbus.
Present.
Lindsey Graham Ellenbus. Here. Colton Coltenfeld.
Here.
Brett Kelly.
Present.
Mary Morales. Ken Cordes. Here. Lucas Jordan.
Here.
Andrew Redding. Jessica Rienstra. Here. Rod Stuff.
Here.
Jennifer Wright. Here. Are there any amendments to today's agenda? Is there a motion to approve?
So moved. Second.
Okay. Is there any objection to approving this by consent? All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We will now turn to public comments. Are there any members of the public who wish to speak today? Are there any signed up online?
I hear you.
Okay. Okay, so we have 3 sets of minutes to approve. First, the May 22nd minutes are present with us in the packet today. Do any commissioners have changes to these minutes? Same question for June 12th and June 16th. If there are no questions or changes, can I get a motion to approve the May 22nd, June 12th, and June 16th meeting minutes?
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I just put these on, John, so I didn't hear which, I didn't realize you included 616.
Yeah.
I do have some questions as it relates to that, but before we even get to that, it's my understanding we were operating at that meeting in a do or die situation. So when a motion was made to adjourn and the chair didn't call for a second or didn't call for a vote, that becomes crucial. I don't see it listed in the minutes. It probably should be, because I think we've got a statutory problem. And that I don't know how the county council in 2015 prepared ordinances and had hearings and conducted business right up to the second half of July. And we're not allowed to do that. I want to know statutorily where the verbiage came that says that we have a deadline that has now passed. Because essentially that, when you think about it, that takes away more than 1/6 of our time to consider. And juxtaposing what they did then and it not being available for us does not seem correct per our Constitution. So that the fact that that's not in the minutes, that particular item takes away the ability for us to go back and challenge as to that issue. I mean, that was why you said we couldn't consider adjournment at 10 o'clock. You said that we had to do, I'm putting words in your mouth, but essentially it's the message I heard. We got to do it tonight or it can't be done.
That is the word from staff. I'm hearing 2 different things on. I want to make sure that I understand you. The first is that we didn't adjourn, but we did. And that's noted on page 49 of the packet. Commissioner Fitzgerald moved to adjourn, Commissioner Older seconded, and the motion carried unanimously. So I think that's your first question.
Well, that brings up
What?
just hold that thought. That brings up a second question. And that is, how could Joe Fitzjordan move to adjourn when he was the chair at that point?
He actually passed the chair back to me after we heard, let's see. We had one more after that, for which, yeah, so we heard proposed amendment 36, and then he passed the gavel back to me, and then we heard proposed amendment 38, and then we had a little bit more business, not a ton, because it was 11:07 p.m., and then we adjourned.
Except that when I said that we needed to suspend the rules, I was asked for a specific motion. I made that specific motion. It's listed in the minutes, and it shows that we, by unanimous consent, we agreed to that. And then it brings up the additional point. I've been pondering, not that I'm overly concerned about getting my head beat on, but how did you have the authority to do that when we had a person to chair that situation? And the reason we needed to have an alternate or the vice chair was because it was something you were the proponent and speaker to. So how could you be handling that particular thing? So it's just various very technical questions.
I'm
yes,
hearing your questions, but I just want to clarify, the proposed amendment 38 and the motion to rescind were not my business. Those were Commissioner Morales's, and so.
Well, you were listed as a sponsor, were you not? I believe that's the case.
On proposed amendment 38. Yeah, possibly, but I didn't speak to it. And so, but what I'm hearing you say, I want to make sure I fully understand what you're saying, which is that Commissioner Fitzjordan, because we had moved and passed by unanimous consent to chair the meeting for the balance. Was it for the balance? I thought it was just for this. The balance.
I don't think that's what was said, though. I think it was
That's
for the
what
balance
it
of the
was
meeting,
said.
and then you were like, oh, no, just for these pieces, it doesn't need to be for the whole rest of the meeting. I'm almost positive.
That's what I remember, but that's
Yeah,
not.
I'm almost 100%.
So
Maybe
I
we
wonder
need
if
to
we can
correct
get
this.
clarification from staff.
So the exact question?
The question is, so on page 47, it says that Commissioner Elmas moved to suspend the rules and recognize Fitzgerald as the temporary chair for the balance of the meeting. At which point Commissioner Wright and myself remember saying it just needs to be for this next item. But what other commissioners are saying, what's correct. The only issue that I'm hearing then is that at the adjournment, that Fitzgerald couldn't move to adjourn, would it need to ask for a motion to adjourn? Is that the issue?
I'm just trying to lay out that there's a whole pattern and series of not complying with the basic rules we adopted. Do I think that that's, yeah, it's a germane thing to be concerned about, but it points to a set of practices which have created a problem.
What is it that
And
you're-
I just allude to that because of when I ask a question, how could something happen when a person is in a certain position? Then they just like you as the chair can't move something. You could suggest it to the body. But
I think we need clarification from the recording of whether or not the gavel was passed back.
So I can address that. I listened to this again. I feel exactly as you said. So I think there are errors in the procedure, but the question I think for Helen would be what we do about it now.
Okay, if that's okay with you.
We may have said that, but it was, then did you really listen afterward? Because I'm almost 100% positive that it was then like revised to.
it would require an amendment to revise it.
I thought you said that would be okay, but maybe, it's late. It was so
The
late.
question is, what are you asking for to be done and or what can be done about it at this point? I hear your point. I'm not disputing your point. I'm asking what can be done about it. Or what are you asking for to be done about it?
Well, my whole conversation started with, there's nowhere listed in these minutes that we're being asked to approve the fact that I moved to adjourn at 10 o'clock. And you did not ask for a second, and you did not consider, instead you responded, and not arguing whether you felt this was appropriate or not, but you responded that we've got to do this tonight. We can't stop. We've got to go through this whole agenda because if we don't do it tonight, we don't have a chance to do it. This is our deadline. And the reason I asked for something like that to be put in here, or the reason it should be in here, is predicated on what you said. We then go to the council and ask them specifically, where did that directive come from? You didn't sit at home and decide, well, I want to consider all these things tonight. You had somebody's input as to that's what the situation was. And it doesn't make sense that we have a deadline that's a month sooner than the county council from the standpoint of putting something on this same election ballot.
I don't disagree. My question is, what can be done about that?
Well,
I can speak to why if you'd like.
Sure.
So, the reason that it's I can't speak to what happened in 2015, but we're going based on the auditor's deadline for receiving, the ballot titles from council. The titles, questions? The ballot titles from council. And we're required by the state to basically advertise it on a press release to the public to make sure that they have the opportunity to serve on the for and against committees. We're required by the state to do that. If we don't have responses, we have to prove to the state with documentation that we did it. So that's the reason that we came up with the schedule. This is a schedule for this year's November election. This body is welcome to continue to meet regarding the following year's November election. That's an option. But the reason that we had to do it this way is to get all the auditors' deadlines in so that they have the things that they need to put on the ballot.
so Madam Chair, the question then comes is how did the council, has the law changed in the last 10 years? Because the council didn't bring up until calling a hearing on the 7th of July and then voting on their ordinance using the emergency clause in the mid or latter part of July. And that's significantly after where we are. So
I'm not sure about what happened. I'm not sure about the process you're talking about. The council will vote to receive these amendments on the 22nd of July. We had to get, the council also has to vote for the for and against committees at the same day. They have to pick members of the public and this body who have applied to be on those committees and write the statements. This is for everything to filter down to that July 22nd council meeting date, which is the last one before the auditor's deadline. We went back from that to make this schedule.
Commissioner Alabas, are you asking to have the minutes from June 16th revised?
I don't think there's enough interest for us to undertake that. Would I like it to be that way? I think that most of our minutes pretty properly list or are a transcription of what transpired at the meetings. But most of them do not meet the legal requirements and reflect the activities as we were to undertake them as we went through. And that's partially because as we went along, you needed Dan Rath to sit beside you. And I think that had we had that, we wouldn't have a problem. And that's why I'm suggesting that these things you shouldn't take that as an insult.
I want you to wrap this up, please. I'm asking you if you want these minutes to be revised or not.
If my request that the minutes reflected the timing of when we adjourned, they must be, or when I moved, it was at 10 o'clock that I made my comments about it being a long day and I was tired and I could see, I mean, for crying out loud, our vice chair was not prepared even to fill that role.
Okay.
So that would be my request. Can we go back and list that? So it's a part of a document that we approve that would be a portion of evidence in the event that this is brought before the council.
Are you making a motion?
I'm sorry.
Are you making a motion to revise the minutes?
I would move that the minutes include the motion to adjourn at 10 o'clock.
Second.
Are there any opposed to doing this by unanimous consent? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so we'll leave off on approving the minutes for June 16th. Can I get a motion to approve the minutes for May 22nd and June 12th?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Are there any opposed to doing this by unanimous consent? All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so we've got some ballot questions to review. That's amendments passed by this committee. I'm gonna ask council to speak briefly to the process before we begin.
Just want to speak a little bit about the ballot titles and explanatory statements that go into the ballot and the voters pamphlet presented to the voters. It's up to the prosecutor's office to write the ballot titles and explanatory statements. This might be something maybe you already know, but I just wanted to go through what each of those things are just for clarity's sake. The ballot title is what goes on the actual ballot. It essentially consists of 3 parts. The first is a small statement of the subject matter of the amendment, no more than 10 words. It's kind of the title of the amendment, as it were. And there's a concise statement of what the amendment does. That's no more than 75 words that goes on the ballot. And then just the third part is followed by a question: should this be approved or rejected? So that's what shows up on the ballot itself. And in addition to that, in the voters pamphlet, there's an explanatory statement that explains more about what the state of the law is currently and how this amendment would change what the law is now, to give more information. Both are intended to be informative, not persuasive, neutral as far as for and against. The arguments for and against will come after that in the voters pamphlet. I think there was some questions about how exactly all of this looks when it is presented to the voters. So I pulled some handouts from the 2015 voters pamphlet. I'm just going to pass those around. First is just a sample ballot from 2015, starting at the bottom right of page 1 and then on to page 2. It lists all the proposed amendments from that year with their ballot titles. That's how they appeared to the voters. And I also printed out one of the amendments sections in the voters pamphlets itself. So you can see where the explanatory statement is listed, where the pro and con statements are listed, and the rebuttals for that. So each amendment will have a section like this in the voters pamphlet with pro and con statements if there are any received and rebuttals if there are any received. And then finally, at the very back of the voters pamphlet, it's printed the complete text of every measure and amendment. So I printed out just a page of that from 2015 as well. That simply lists what sections of the charter are being affected by the amendment and what the changes are, what new sections are put out there. So I don't know how many voters, to be honest, go all the way to the back of the voters pamphlet and read the complete text of these measures, but it is there for them to see exactly what's being changed if they look for it. I've prepared drafts of the ballot titles, which are in your materials here. Although it is the prosecutor's office that completes the ballot titles and submits them to the auditor, I'm looking for feedback from commissioners, looking for any edits, any potential inaccuracies that might be in there, or suggestions to make it clearer. I will certainly take your feedback into account. I don't think it's something that's quite necessarily need to vote on, but if commissioners want to express suggestions to me, I will try to incorporate those into the final ballot titles. You can catch me here at the meeting or outside the meeting if you want to send me an email with any suggestions, edits, or anything like that. I'm still working on the explanatory statement drafts. I hope to have those next week in the form where I can send them out to everybody. Does anybody have any questions about ballot titles, explanatory statements?
To clarify, commissioners don't need to vote on these.
Right.
Changes need to be made.
Changes need to be made, suggest them to me, and I will take them under advisement.
Was that how they did it in 2015?
It appears so. There was a vote taken. It looked like almost on the form of the ballot title, but I couldn't really understand why that vote was taken, to be honest with you. But it doesn't look like they did anything like approving each ballot title by vote. I know Mr. Gibson, who advised the group in 2015, did present his drafts of ballot title to the group. They're actually a different prosecutor that drafted them to the group for feedback. But the last thing I wanted to say is that in doing legal review of all the amendments, I want to commend everybody who helped draft these. They all look really good as far as the language goes. I did not find much in the way of legal problems or suggested edits. The one place I did have a suggestion was with the amendment to the ombuds office. During the meeting, there was that sentence added or changed at the end of that amendment, making the sunset clause, as it were, provisional on a council vote. I suggested some language just to make it a little more clear the mechanism by which the council could either eliminate or maintain that office in 2030. And it's not intended to change what the amendment does, but just to make sure that 5 years from now, when there's people that weren't in this room trying to interpret that, there's no confusion or mistake there.
So I'm not opposed to going through these one by one. I presume that's the process. Commissioner Elmas, do you want to clarify if that's the way it's normally done?
Say again?
I'm asking a process question. Do you normally go through these one at a time so that the public has the advantage of hearing how these appear? Your recollection of 2015?
I don't have a firm recollection of it. Maybe it'll come to my mind as we're going through it. But what, listening to his discussion of how he came about this and reading through them, I think he's done a pretty good job.
Commissioner Rainey?
Yeah, I'd like to suggest that, we do like kind of a consent agenda kind of situation here. We couldn't go rhetorically to everyone because it seemed pretty uncontroversial unless there's one somewhere in there that someone finds a problem with, and in which case to flag it and bring it up. But otherwise, I would be for whatever motion, I'd like to make whatever motion it is that gets us through by unanimous consent to the next thing on that.
Commissioner Rainey?
There was somewhere in here, I believe, that I saw something that didn't, I don't think it like accurately reflected what we voted on. I was looking to see if I can find it. So I was looking on internet at the time. I think there's at least one that I would like to at least spend a little bit of time, like maybe get minutes to for something really low. I just think it would be good to make sure. Oh, this is it, the very first one. So it says that it would, the second to the last line, it starts saying, the person who got the greatest number of votes in the Charter Review Commission election will set the procedural rules that will govern the Charter Review Commission meetings until the commission adopts a permanent set of rules. But I thought what we voted on was like within the first meeting. Is that not the case?
The S should be stricken because it only handled it through the election of the officers and the rules that we would use for that.
I think it was for the first, yeah, it was for just for like organization's sake in the first meeting. That's all that's what we voted on. So I'm wrong about that, I apologize, but I think that is.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Looking at the amendment language that was, it says that this commissioner shall determine the rules that will govern the first meeting of the commission until a permanent set of rules is adopted by the commission. So, yeah, I think it does indicate first meeting. It also indicates until the permanent set of rules is adopted. I don't think there's necessarily a possibility. I mean, it depends on whether or not there's a possibility that, like, could this next commission get to a point where we don't adopt these rules and that first meeting?
Or if, somebody had a really strong, I just think letting people have choice and a say is important, so
Can we?
So I just think if you just change it to like, something more accurately reflective of it.
Commissioner Morales?
Yeah, I'm wondering, could we just put the S in parentheses and just indicate that it could be one meeting or more, depending on what the commission. So
That might be.
you need to move that, is that?
No, I think
We
what
do here.
council-
So, I mean, you gotta be clear that you're talking about two different things. If you're talking about amending the amendment that's going before the voters, that does require a vote. It's just a suggestion to amend the ballot title. You just let them-
It's the description.
It's the description, yeah, so it's in page 2. The last line, the second word is meetings, and it just needs like parentheses around this.
No problem doing that.
Okay, thank you, it's just.
Just
So
on-
that the amendment itself says first meeting.
Right.
Where does that leave us?
I think it should
Is it
reflect
like
what
two
we
separate
voted
things?
on.
So should it say meeting and that should say?
I thought
does
the
say
amendment
meeting.
said until the rules are adopted, so I'm like,
But it also says first meeting.
First meeting until the rules are adopted.
yeah, so this says both of those things too.
Right,
The
that's what-
description, yeah.
Commissioner Olmos.
I just have a question for council is, as he's laid this out for us, how much influence is gonna be exercised against you and the wording you've adopted? Are there, is the council gonna have the county council have some say as to how you do this?
I'm not planning on talking to any council members about it. I generally have a pretty open door policy to people who want to make their opinions known, but I'll certainly exercise my independent judgment on what I think is appropriate.
So it's your feeling that what you've given us accomplishes what your task is and that it's not gonna be piecemeal
That's
modified by someone else in the process?
I attempted to get this in a form where it would be pretty acceptable and final.
Okay, thank you.
Hopefully.
Commissioner Stump, did you have your hand up? I think what the amendment says is the first meeting until the permanent set of rules are adopted, so I think that should be the same in the description as it is in the amendment.
Yeah, so we just wanna take off the S.
And I mean, maybe the easiest way will be just to copy paste the text of the amendment straight in there. We've got words to spare on that one.
That sounds good. Any other questions from the folks about these
I
descriptions?
just wanted enough time to like look through and put it last time.
Well, can I just throw out an idea on this and make the council, it might be refreshing to council as well. Technically, according to any rules of order, before you have an election, you have to have selected a set of rules. Okay? So the purpose of this, and Mutcher's not here to describe it, but I'm pretty sure what he was getting at is that takes away that fact that we didn't have a set of rules to start out with. So the indication was that the chair would, the highest person would select the set of rules that we would operate under. And quite frankly, the next step beyond accepting that a set of rules is to elect the chair. And maybe the other officers, but at least elect the chair. And once there's an elected chair, then that should be the first order of business for that chair to adopt the permanent rules for the body. And that requires then the approval of the rest of the body. It's not just a selection of the chair, because this is now the permanent chair starting to conduct business with the body. And so, on any agenda that permanent chair would have, of course, their first function of business is to fill out the rest of the officers. But there needs to be a permanent set of rules by which this happens. So there can be technicalities in how you write this. Is it the rules that the chair adopted, the temporary chair adopted? Or is it going to be, as in the normal situation, where a permanent chair then begins to conduct business and adopts the rules, the permanent rules for the body? And the chair doesn't have a decision on that anymore. It's the body has that decision. So when you look at it that way, is there anything different about how this ballot description would be written?
I don't think so. I think that's why it's probably safest just to use the text directly from the amendment. But where it actually says what it does, and using word for word what the amendment is. So I think that is a good solution to it. But I agree with that should be the first way for the body of 10 years. And the intent here was avoid that confusion that we had at the first meeting to figure out how to pick a set of rules when you don't have a set of rules to pick the rules.
I think we also talked about like writing a letter and maybe kind of almost like an onboarding for the next 10 years group. We could also put that in there. And then additionally, in the next one, proposed amendment 17, the third line down, a little to the right of center after the word legislation, there's like a couple of extra spaces before period. So I'm just going to continue reviewing. I had a pen when I came in here, it wasn't red. I don't know where.
Are we, sorry, can I just, so are we just sort of casually suggesting changes here? We're not consenting?
According to council, there doesn't need to be a vote. These are just suggested edits to the ballot descriptions. So what we voted on is not going to change the amendment language itself, but this is what will describe the amendments on the ballot.
Okay, I would like to raise one about 19. Just to note that the last sentence feels a little vague, misleading to voters in terms of these numbers and where they're from. So I feel like if we're going to give figures, it needs to be clear which election, you know, what rate, like a little more specificity about the numbers, because at present is not descriptive of like what does that mean. So I would love for that to be just made more accurate by council.
Question with that, because I think we have, it looks like these are probably right up against the number of words that you can use. But it makes sense just to strike that last sentence because we won't have the number of words in order to explain what it is. And I think it would require some pretty considerable explanation for that.
Commissioner Ray?
I'm wondering, we could just strike it, that's an option, like, and I would be okay with that, but I also wonder, like, as a voter, I wanna know, because I otherwise wouldn't have a clue whether it's like going up or down, especially if it's changing election. So if we just took out the words at present, that Commissioner Morales was given pause by.
That would not satisfy me.
No, oh. And then we said this would reduce the required number of signatures from 20,468. And we could put like in parentheses gubernatorial. 15,981.
That would not satisfy me because this is citing a number from a certain date.
Right, that was like.
So I think striking the last sentence would make sense. It would make more sense because really the substance of this amendment is not a number in an election. It is a percentage of a race. People can find their own numbers, but also in the actual ballot pamphlet description, an argument from a con statement page, people can just, you know, can.
I'm gonna say, based on this body, it was really important piece of data for us, and we all leaned on it heavily, and I think our constituents will also. So I don't see that being a benefit. I feel like this is a good.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I think as a voter, I would really want to know what it does practically, the number of signatures. I hear you on like, oh, wait, where is this coming from? Then instead of at present, couldn't we just say based on the most recent elections, this would reduce the required number of signatures? It already made reference to the county executive election and the gubernatorial election. So based on those most recent elections.
Yeah, I'm agreeing with Lindsay and with Raymond, yeah.
I mean, I think what I'm asking for is specificity, so an actual year. I'm not comfortable putting just a figure without an actual year because our population has changed so many times, upward. And I think our voting population changes, and I'd like us to have specificity. So if that's in a parentheses or whatever that is.
So it's based on 2023 and 2024 elections.
Something, yeah. So if our council can just put that in there and then go back to the definite figure in our actual auditor website. When I looked this up in the meeting, it actually was a slightly different figure. I think I wrote it on the
like
actual
16
packet.
409
It's a slightly different number. So I would just hate for us to misprint and put an inaccurate number and not cite it and then have this be raised by somebody. You know, I think we need to be a little bit attentive to those kinds of.
Calculations from the most recent election that we must look at them. Relative to the numbers.
Commissioner Rose?
So, I agree. I had no dog in the fight on whether to strike the last one out or not, but based on Commissioner Eamon's, if you put, based on, like, based on the previous race, and then after each of the numbers, put gubernatorial and put executive, then I think that could satisfy it. And I'm just thinking of the least number of words possible so that Kellen can meet his requirement. So, is that?
What if we just put the year? Yeah, just title and year, gubernatorial year.
Yeah.
Executive.
I like that. I like taking away the like at present or like the year stuff from the beginning. I want to get to like the point first and then the data second. So what if we said like, take out at present, this would reduce the required number of signatures, estimated from whatever. Or this would reduce the, I don't know, something like estimated off of the 2023-2024 elections. 20 years, something like
So for
that.
each election is a different.
I guess I'm just trying to say that I think we should put the numbers after what we wanted to do, which is reduce the amount of signatures, right? We're saying that first and then by how much after. Sure.
I really would like to stick with Kellen's much simpler language. It's, current is correct there. That is the fact. And if you look it up, you'll see that Kellen's figures are correct.
What if we just, so we honor like all the things people are saying they wanna do, the various voices, what if we kept it exactly as it is, except for we put in parentheses after the numbers, like what kind of race and what year it's from, like gubernatorial, 2023, executive, 2024, or something like that, so that that is providing clarity. Does that seem like it would help? Or no? No? Okay. Yes, Commissioner.
It's going to make it much more complicated and much more unclear because they'll be thinking, why are you comparing 2023 with 2024?
Okay, yeah,
True.
Okay,
Keep it simple.
okay. We can keep it simple.
So kind of going to keeping it simple, but making sure we're informing the voters. So both proposed amendment 19 and 20, it just says adjusting the number of signatures when actuality, it was the number of signatures and the election race that were modified in those amendments. And so I'm wondering if can I address council? Sorry. I'm wondering if a more appropriate ballot title would be something like adjusting the percentage of signatures and race used required for the charter amendment, and then same title except for required for referendum on the next one.
I've thought about that. My difficulty there is I only have 10 words in that subject title.
There room to add one word?
I think I'm at 10 right now, but I can probably figure out a way.
I'm just wondering if in the last sentence, if you could say, this would drastically reduce the required number of signatures.
Drastic would not be something.
Yeah.
Well, or synonym or whatever.
That's a value judgment.
Oh, okay.
I'll put you on that.
Yeah.
I'll think about that too.
My last comment, I hope, is just like, it would be nice, like what is important too is not only the signatures, but the fact that it's being made local. I think that's really important to all of us. So I wonder if there's a way to just like totally redo that one where we're saying like, it's, you know, aligning it with the county elections and then, and adjusting the number of signatures. Something like that, so that it gets to the point we don't want to even like the state. Probably should.
I like that idea.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I certainly appreciate it. And I also think that, yeah, I think one of the important things about the amendment is, and both amendments is aligning it with the local, for the ballot title, it might be best to just keep it as simple as possible, and, like calling out the fact that it does align with the would be something for a statement. But ultimately, this does ultimately adjust the number of signatures required, that is the effect of the amendment. I feel like it's the most accurate describe it.
You're also adjusting the metric for signatures required. I think you could use a different word there than number. Are there any other questions or comments on this?
But just a point of clarification, what's our conclusion on this?
What I heard was that we were giving input to Kellen, who's then going to rework it.
Okay, thank you.
Take all the
I missed that
comments
part.
under advisement. Since they're everything, let's just say the next one, please. Go over it all again.
We need to watch on Zoom.
Yeah.
Brains are working hard. I just have a question about on page 3, proposed amendment 23. It's the third to last line, or the second to last line, the last word certain. I was wondering if it would be more accurate to like say detailed budget information. Again, just for voters to know that that's what we're doing, if they're only reading the one little bit.
This was one I struggled with the word limit on this ballot title, given the amount of information. So I think that's what I'm not going to transfer it.
Okay, so you think we have room for more words, which would be more detailed, something such a similar thing? Because I would want as a voter more detailed information, but it's certain information. Good question on proposed amendment 29. In the amendment language that we passed, it says, about county department or officials shall not expend county funds, use county resources, or initiate litigation to advocate for or against, or to legally challenge the validity of. But in the description, it just talks about council members acting against an initiative. Looking at council members from expending county resources in opposition to an initiative or charter amendment. My understanding what we voted on is that they can't advocate for something and they can't oppose something using county resources. Just so you know what this is. Suggesting the ballot title to change it to something like prohibiting the council from advocating for or opposing citizen initiatives. My suggestion has more to do with expending county resources in favor of or opposition to. So because Amendment 34 is a little bit different, and we have some language change there that Kellen talked about, we will need a motion to change that language. Commissioner Colton is here and has agreed to it, but I want to give the commission time to consider that change on page 5. I don't know, are you done with 29? You have more to say, go ahead.
I don't know, I was just like saying, prohibiting the council from spending county resources related to citizen initiatives.
I think as a valid title, that's not. If you look at what the amendment was called, I really just wanted it to be clear that resources can't be spent either way, but
What
nothing.
about a complete change, like requiring the neutrality of county government on people's initiatives to the ballot?
What we want it to be, not what we don't want it to be.
Unless that's, I didn't count the words.
I love the title of the proposed amendment itself, and it's 21 words, so.
What does it say?
Prohibits the council from taking any action to impede, alter, or prevent an initiative petition from being placed on the ballot. So, prohibiting the council from interfering with citizen initiatives.
Isn't it more than council? I thought it was the whole county.
Well, when we get into the meat of it, for sure, it has to do with
Prevents county interference with people's ballot initiatives. It's 7 words.
prohibiting county council and staff from interfering with citizen initiatives.
Or executive too, though, right?
Prohibiting county officials?
County officials.
Yeah, that seems accurate.
I would ask the author of the amendment of that. reflects the-
Say that one more time.
Prohibiting county officials from interfering with citizen initiatives.
That works. Three county words over there.
I think the one sort of is work to do with this one.
I kind of think the intent is to stop the county council from being able to stop an initiative. If they support it, they're supporting the people that brought it in and got the signatures. I don't think we really need to worry about them not supporting it. Or it's to stop them from stopping stuff going through and going to the people to be voted on, right? That's what we're trying to do here with this initiative, I think.
Yeah, my comment really had to do with the expending of county resources, which I hear what you're saying, that's not happening in favor of.
Yeah, they're not gonna spend money we're not worried about that. I mean, I don't want them to spend money either, believe me. But I don't think we have to worry about that, right? It's to stop stuff is what the intent was on this.
I'm wondering if we could change officials to government, because
When the county government interfering with citizen initiatives.
I feel like officials makes it sort of like a few individuals, but I feel like it's really the whole county government that is not, as a system and machine, supposed to interfere, right?
That to me seems good.
You're saying deep state?
Prohibiting county government from interfering with citizen initiatives, is that what we're suggesting?
It's 8 words.
Yeah, did you catch that, Colin? Okay. All right, now I'm ready to go to the next one, number 3.
I think we gotta be careful there, because if we make a county government, we're including the prosecutor in us, and we literally can't do that.
Well, I'm just thinking of it, like, in terms of the accuracy of what
Yeah.
this commission.
Any county department or office shall not expend county funds, that's the only piece. I find the title how it was, I just wanted down below where it talks about resources to make sure it's clear what's being like.
Can I just clarify, Commissioner Fitzjordan, in the, and maybe council as well, with the current phrasing of this amendment, is it even legal?
Sounded like you were going phase 3.
I don't think it would be enforceable against the prosecutor. If somebody attempted to bring action against the prosecutor's office.
Commissioner Almas.
At some point, we might want to rank these in the order of importance as we say. I mean, the more important than we think it is, the higher on the list it should be. And the other part of that would be grouping them, for instance, having like a proposed amendment 29 prohibiting the council from opposing citizen initiatives, that probably should be grouped with the two, the change numbers as it relates to initiatives. Like what I'm attempting to say, and my mind is still going in circles on a Baylor, is we need a plan. See if we can come to an agreement on a plan that takes the proposals that we're making and lists them for the voter in the area where they're gonna get the most attention. So that probably should be on our agenda as well, in thinking how do we go about this?
Yeah, I just want to ask a clarifying question. Are we allowed to move these out sequential order when it comes to putting them? Can we do them however we want?
I believe you can send them to the auditor in whatever order you wish to send them. You're in charge of that. Action that sends it to the auditor and the auditor assigns the numbers.
Just as a,
The council sends it to the auditor, but I can't imagine anybody changing the order from what you said.
Okay, about amendment 25? What, sorry?
I just had a comment about the order.
Oh,
that I
say
was
it
trying to
then.
make, which was that, like, I love the idea of thematically grouping them. I think that could make a lot of sense. I also, because they probably have to stay with the numbers that we dealt with them in charter order in order to deal, either that or our index would have to be completely changed. I don't think that would be possible. So my concern is for people, as a teacher, I'm thinking about people who like, their brain would completely not be able to process out of order numbers. So just a thought.
Go away.
I believe the auditor will assign the numbers once they're received, separate from the numbers that you've all used.
On the charter?
Yes,
Mhm.
there'll be a number just in
That's fast.
sequential order. From 12.
Are we ready to go forward?
Yeah. I just want to say, I hope we're not going to spend several hours trying to figure out the perfect order for these things. And I think the voters are a lot smarter than we give them credit for. They can see which ones are important on there as they go on them. And they have had the voter guide with pros and cons statements and stuff. They'll skip over anything they don't think is that important, or they'll come back to it later or whatever. I don't want to be acting like them.
So I'll respond to that actually now. I would say as a teacher, I couldn't disagree more profoundly because I think making things clear and accessible to the maximum number of people, we group them in a way that makes things easier to understand for people. That could be really beneficial. So I don't think I think talking about nannies, demeans nannies, and also our, anyway, so about amendment 25. I wonder why we changed the word adding to adjusting, because it really is adding. And again, that's the intent. We want financial reporting requirements. If we adjust it, we could be making it like way less, right? And so we want the voters to know that we're adding financial reporting requirements. Yeah.
The financial reporting requirements are actually already there. I think what we were adding is some guidelines for council on not approving additional ones if they don't meet these requirements, if the financial reports aren't done on time.
Yeah, it just says it on page 67, that was the word it said, so I was like, maybe we'll just put it back to that because it's more clear. So what's a better word? I'm not married to it, I just want to be clear.
I think this is speaking to what, and like the neutrality of the title, I think adjusting is the word that I would use, like commissioner was looking at. Adding implies that a financial reporting requirement was not there to begin with, which it was. I think adjusting accurately reflects the fact that it's being altered in a way that is neutral.
It's really, we're making them they can't create money until the report is received. Yeah, and so then
adding financial reporting requirements. So, I mean, or, oh, I just had it. It was like accountability, like adding financial reporting.
Accountability?
Yeah. Oh, I just had it too. Okay, come back. More coffee.
That's clear. What we're doing.
I don't think it's gonna make or break it.
So on 34, is Helen gonna explain to us what the concern was and how we got about to the adjustment?
Madam Chair, just so you know, the amendment on 34 is not on the agenda part, it's on page 82. So make sure you're looking at page 82.
Yeah, sorry.
Okay, so you know, Jim, the amendment is different from the ballot title on 34, so the amendment is listed on page 82. Oh, sorry.
That's perfect.
So proposed changes are at the bottom. So is there a legal difference between abolishing and dissolving? Page 82.
Not necessarily, I usually think of dissolving like dissolving your body or something you periodically rather than eliminating or permanent.
I guess that's my concern is, would it be permanent? Like, to me, if you abolish something, that means that it's like done forever. I don't know legally if that's what that means.
Or just sunset.
It's not really sunset.
I'm
What is
hearing-
wrong with abolish? What is?
Well, I was just wondering if there's any legal difference between that.
You have an objection to that word you're wondering.
Well, it does feel like the implication feels more final and permanent, right, than dissolving does.
It is though. It would be permanent. So they should know that it would be a permanent change.
It would be a change that I suppose voters or a future charter commission could undo, right?
Could
So,
reinstate it.
yeah, so it seems like
That's-
dissolve might be more accurate.
It
Their
says after
action
that,
is done.
until rescinded or altered by the charter. So it gives the option
Yeah.
later on. I think abolish is fine.
Suggest eliminate as a middle ground.
Sure.
Eliminate
Eliminate is
works.
perfect. So on this one, the proposed language is, during the calendar year of 2030, the county council may eliminate the office of the ombuds by ordinance. Should the council do so, this charter section shall be nullified and have no further effect. If the council does not eliminate the office in 2030, this charter shall remain in effect until rescinded or altered by charter amendment. So in order to make that change, we do a motion.
So moved.
Second. I have a motion by Commissioner Ellenboss, a second by Commissioner Morales. This is amendment language. Is that-
Raymond Collins,
Yes.
Liz Darrow,
Yes.
Joe Ellenboss,
Yes,
Lindsey Graham Ellenboss,
Yes.
sorry,
Yes, thank you.
Colton Cottonfeld. Brad Kelly,
Yes.
Maya Morales,
Yes.
John Mutchler, is absent, Hannah Ordos,
Yes.
Bill Pitts Jordan,
Aye.
Andrew Redding,
Yes.
Jessica Rienstra,
Yes.
Rod Stump,
No.
Jennifer Wright,
Yes.
Colton Cottonfeld.
You'll skip me again.
Well,
down, Doug.
He is up, he is no longer on the Zoom.
Okay,
He was, but he's no longer on the Zoom.
what about Commissioner Chadwick?
He on the Zoom? Judge Chadwick.
Yes.
I always think I can remember you up there, but I don't.
And that passes, 12 in favor, 1 opposed, 1 excused, and 1 absent. I got it. Commissioner Colvin, excused? Okay. Okay.
He answered the roll call, didn't
He did, he was here, possible he.
Here, sorry. Hello, yes, sorry, my Zoom is having a tough time while also running maps and driving a car, so my apologies.
Not sure where we lost you, Commissioner Kaltenfeld, but we were just voting on the proposed change to amendment 34. Do you need a recap on that language?
No, I heard everything. I just got kicked out of Zoom while trying to unmute myself. So I'm a yes.
So that passes 13 to 1, excuse me, with 1 excuse. Okay. Commissioner Morales.
I do have a quick question. I feel like, is it me or is there an amendment missing here?
Which amendment?
There was an amendment that I thought that we passed that was about planning department, and
It's on here.
am I just
The
mixed
first
up
one,
on the titles?
17, the first one.
Thank you. I didn't think that was the same thing, so that
Sorry, the
was,
second one.
yeah, so I may have questions about that word. I'm gonna review it again.
Commissioner Morales.
Chair, I found my words.
Huzzah.
Proposed amendment 25, adding accountability to financial reporting requirements. Does that give you a vibe? Commissioner Wright?
I'm just like. Yes.
So someone that will refer.
6 4. Commissioner Morales, anything?
Just copy to do it. Nope, I'm good.
Okay, thank you. Let's see, so everyone's good to move on. Well, let's see, I want to honor the proposal by Commissioner Alabas that we, without great length, spend some time either in this meeting or we do it in next meeting to group these. I think that's a good proposal for, or do we have a deadline for that, I guess is the question.
Yeah.
Is that be okay with you, Commissioner Alabas?
he? Sabati's.
Could we first vote on whether we want to do it?
Do you want to make a motion?
Madam Chair, I move that, ignoring the numbers that we have submitted, the order that we've submitted these in, that we assign a requested priority with the additional alternative of considering grouping them as to the topics they cover.
That's a good motion. Okay.
Well, I thought you wanted me to be specific.
That's great. No, that's good. I just can't write that fast. So the motion is to ignore the order of the amended numbers that we have and instead group them.
Rank them and group them,
Okay.
potentially group them.
I'd like to amend that and remove rank. And just
Well-
group them.
Another word is fine, I don't know.
Order them?
Sure. You brought me beat down
Order
already.
and potentially group them. By content, is that the point? By content of the amendment, is that what thinking there?
Somebody else can word it however you want, that's just the idea that I put forth, there are better wordsmiths than
We have a motion,
anybody but Andrew.
we have a motion to ignore the order of amendment numbers that we have and instead order and potentially group them. Does that satisfy the body? What we're trying to do? Second. Second.
Could we quickly discuss any pros and cons here?
Sure.
I think I've raised one, which is I think number order can be helpful for some folks. And it stays in line with our record keeping and the charter process. And if anybody wants to dig into charter documents, send them up to us.
I would just perhaps recommend that they're just in order of the articles of the charter. And then that keeps it, if anybody is referencing the charter, then they can go and look. I mean, I don't know how many people will do that, but that would also keep them kind of in line with, I mean, the charter articles can go in a certain alignment. So if that's how we order them, I think that's an easy way, because the con to us doing that, though I think there's value, is that we could sit here for a long time and vote independently on what we think is the most important. And I think the articles of the charter kind of make that easier and neutral for everybody.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think, for me, and I do not have strong feelings on this either way. I do want to add, though, that looking back at 2015, there was a little bit of drop off from amendment to amendment, as people just kind of like moved down the line. So I think there's value in potentially thinking about it in terms of the fact that, I think there are objectively tangible impacts as opposed to those that are largely tactical amendments.
Commissioner Wright? I would wonder if we should have whatever discussion we need to have, but it sounds like we're in agreement that we do want to address this, ordering them, grouping them, or what have you. So, Commissioner Wright?
Have to vote on it, but anyways, if you would like to make that, Commissioner Bordeaux, if you'd like to make that your suggestion into a motion to amend, I would second it.
Do we have to deal with the motion?
No, it's a motion to amend that motion.
So I motion to amend Commissioner Ellen Boss's amended motion by Commissioner Morales to do our accepted amendments in order of articles of our county charter.
And I'll second that. And that now becomes the motion on the table.
Do we want to group them within that order? Right, if there's more than one. Is there more than one and do the same thing?
I feel like it naturally, if it's based on whatever article and how it's ordered, I think just.
For the word. Okay.
Yeah.
Staff, could you please call the roll?
Liz Darrow.
Wait, hold on, I want to clarify the motion is to amend the previous motion to group amendment order by charter amendment order, is that correct?
Yeah, does everybody understand that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, yes.
You mean by charter order.
By
I-
charter order, yeah, that's.
Or articles, charter articles.
Charter article order.
Yeah, charter articles.
So the motion is to amend the previous motion to group the amendment order by charter article order. That makes sense? Yeah.
Only
So
make
make
it
sure
say it 10
everyone
times.
understands what we're
Yeah.
talking about before we move on. Yeah, does that make sense to you?
With me, all I did is throw out an idea. I
I'm
don't
just
need,
clarifying that everyone knows what we're talking about before we vote.
Maybe I should clarify then that I understand, because I'm not sure. I think you're saying that it, instead of like a group by article in a different order, that it just literally goes in the order that it amends the charter.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. 2.14 and 2.
Real easy squeezy.
Yeah.
You don't have to spend hours on it.
I'm with you.
Liz Darrow.
Yes.
Joe Ellenboss.
sure,
Lindsey Graham Ellenboss. Come back to me. Colton Collins.
Yes.
Brad Kelly.
Yes.
Maya Morales.
Yes.
Hannah Ordos.
Yes.
Bill Fitzgerald.
Aye.
Andrew Redding.
Yes.
Jessica Rienstra.
Yes.
Rod Stump.
Yes.
Jennifer Wright. Yes. Doug Hadway.
Yes.
Eamon Collins.
Yes.
Yes. Vote yes. That passes 14-1. So now we're back to the original motion. Which essentially we just voted for. But we still have to go on the original motion. I'll tell you all that.
As amended.
As amended, which to me is like, I have some words for Robert, but anyway. So we have this motion before us. Let's see. I mean, it really is to put this motion as amended onto our agenda for July 10th. Yes?
I thought it was to adopt it immediately. And that will be your.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Discussion.
No, I don't think, I think you're right, Andrew's wrong.
Are you being serious? It's hard to tell.
There's a twinkle in the
I know,
eye. I can report a
I don't
twinkle.
trust it. I don't know.
I feel like we should be efficient and adopt it, but if we're so inclined.
Well, just a second, what the purpose of this is whether or not we are gonna put it on the agenda for the next meeting, isn't that?
No.
correct?
No.
It's not an amendment to the charters.
This is just adopting our idea of how they should be ordered, right? I think it's pretty.
Yeah. It's very straightforward.
Do you object
There's
to
no
that?
question of how it has to be done.
Well, I don't have any objection. Obviously, we were able to move much faster on this than we have anything else.
I'd just like to make sure that satisfies the original motions.
Oh, absolutely, I'm just copacetic.
What I understood the motion to amend to was to make that order change.
Okay, cool. Forward to new business.
We have to vote.
We need a
Oh,
vote.
for crying in the night. All right, staff, would you please call the roll?
Joe Ellenboss,
Sure.
Lindsey Graham Ellenboss,
Yes.
Colton Felt,
Yes.
Brad Kelly.
Yes.
Maya Morales.
Yes.
Anna Ordos,
Yes.
Joel Fitzjordan,
Aye.
Andrew Redding.
Yes.
Jessica Rienstra,
Yes.
Rod Stump,
Yes.
Jennifer Wright. Yes. Doug Chadwick,
Yes.
Eamon Collins.
Yes.
Liz Darrow.
Yes. And that passes 14 in favor with one excuse. Under new business, we have one item. It was briefly discussed at an early meeting, but we moved it to tonight to allow more time for amendments. And this is a recommendation regarding the word limit in the county voters guide, suggested by Commissioners Mutchler, Haltenfeld, Fitzjordan, and Winstra. Would anyone of you like to speak to this recommendation? Go for it.
Madam Chair. Thinking back a while to that meeting with the auditor and talking about this very concept of increasing the number of the word limit for charter review commissioners. I know that 100 words is not a lot of space to be able to incorporate someone's experiences, their qualifications, how they would go about the role. But I definitely share the concern that it was not something that would rise to the level of a charter amendment, and the auditor shared that it would be something that they could do just on their own. So would commend this recommendation just to the auditor that they adjust the word limit in the voters pamphlet in 2034.
Motion to adopt.
As this is a new item, we need a motion to consider it at the 7:10 meeting. That's per rules that we adopted.
So move.
I'll second.
Shouldn't your motion be a motion to suspend the rules? To accomplish that?
Deal with it now, why don't we just suspend the rules? Sure. I'll make a motion to suspend the rules and deal with it now.
Well, I mean, that's, if we're modifying the rule, that's
We
our only.
weren't gonna modify. the
We weren't gonna
rule.
modify it,
vote
we
on-
can.
I'm gonna leave it up to Commissioner Redding to decide what his motion is.
Pardon me?
I'm gonna leave it up to you to decide what your motion is.
My motion is to suspend the rules so that we can move ahead with this.
We have a second for Commissioner Kelly. Are there any opposed to doing this by, we probably can't suspend the rules by consent, that seems wild. Let's call a roll on that.
Lindsey Graham Ellenboss, no. Colton Felt,
Pass.
Brad Kelly,
Yes.
Maya Morales. Sure. Anna Ordos,
Yes.
Joel Fitzjordan,
Aye.
Andrew Redding.
Yes.
Jessica Rienstra,
Yes.
Rod Stump,
Nope.
Jennifer Wright. Yes. Doug Chadwick,
Yes.
Eamon Collins,
Yes.
Liz Darrow,
Yes.
Joe Ellenboss,
Yes,
Colton Felt.
Yes.
In orders.
Yes.
That passes 12 in favor, 2 opposed, and 1 excused. So we've now.
Now,
I just,
motion to
I just
adopt.
want to make sure I understand. I don't have any real issue with this, except for my recollection is we made a recommendation to the auditor in person at that meeting, and she accepted it and said, okay.
Mhm.
So why are we doing this when we've already done that? How does this solidify something in a different way?
More formal. I'm sure exactly what Commissioner Kelly just said. I think it formalizes the recommendation and memorializes it in an official record.
She,
Commissioner Wright? I think very highly of our auditor and with other county officials. Personal agreements with it's, you know, not to do this stuff in writing. So because of that, personally, I think no matter who it is, for me, I like things just to be in writing, just because I've had more than one of those experiences with them in the past. And so I think she would not need this, but I also have had those experiences, so.
I just feel like it's in our minutes and everything, that it's kind of been solidified, but I just was wondering what the difference was, so.
Were you about to make a motion, Commissioner?
Yeah, and I agree with you, but I'm just trying to.
Yeah,
get things
no, I
moving
understand,
here.
I just
And,
didn't understand.
so I make a motion to do just that and to get a vote, to approve.
Okay, motion to approve the proposed recommendation to the auditor.
Second.
Stephanie?
Second.
Commissioner Morales.
Colton Phil.
Yes.
Greg Kelly.
Yes.
Maya Morales. Yep. John Mutchler. Hannah Ordos.
Yes.
Joel Fitzjordan.
Aye.
Andrew Redding.
Yes.
Jessica Rienstra.
Yes.
Rod Stump.
No.
Jennifer Wright.
Yes.
Doug Chadwick.
Yes.
Eamon Collins.
Yes.
Liz Darrow.
Yes.
Joe Ellenboss.
Sure.
Lindsey Graham Ellenboss.
No.
So Madam Chair,
Please, that passes 12-2 with 1 excused, yes.
in light of that, I kind of like the way this is brought up because with Lindsay's question and the answer to her question, we want to have a record of it. I believe that's what Mr. Kelly indicated. And it causes me to ask, I mean, I realize I'm just a simple farmer, but we're public officials. And I presume we sent an official piece of correspondence to the council on one issue, maybe on 2. I think we've come to some pretty unanimous decision making on that. And I don't know that we have any report. There's no report back on any of that. And I feel pretty neutered if that's the case. And I like to think that I'm a stallion rather than a gelding as it relates to my government service. So I'd like to know where we stand on that. Maybe there's not a report, I don't know, but if there is one, I'd certainly like to hear it.
I personally have not heard anything back, I don't know if that was.
So were they resolutions?
Resolution.
Both resolutions were sent to council. The council officially voted to receive them, which is what they do with documents that they're sent, to show that there's a record. That is all the response I have. If you would like more, I suggest that the chair reach out to the chair of the council. Okay.
In other words, it's in the waste basket for us, our perspective, because if it's not timely responded to, we're sayonara, sine die.
I hear that, and I wonder if, I think my preference would be to reach out to, Councilwoman Galloway and ask for an official response, even though we already asked that in our initial request. I don't see any harm in trying again. So that's what I would do, Commissioner Ray.
That sounds very reasonable to me, and I wonder if we don't hear back, like if that's something that happens promptly and then we don't hear back, maybe we would want to do something more formally if we don't get the response at the next meeting. And then I was originally raising my hand to say, do we need to do a vote to reinstate the rules? Now that we've accomplished, great question, what would Robert do?
Robert would motion to reinstate the rules.
I motion to reinstate the rules.
Second.
All those in favor, can we reinstate by consent? Okay, all those in favor of reinstating the rules, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you for that. I have communicated with Councilman Galloway about these before, but I'm happy to follow up, and beyond that, we can do that together. Sure, we'll do that. Just noting that it's not our last meeting, it's our last meeting on these issues, which will be going to the ballot, which doesn't include those two resolutions. So I don't feel like the time's up necessarily, but I think in terms of a timely response, I take the point that we haven't gotten one. And so if we don't get one, what would be you and I, all of us, doing with the next meeting? I just want to make sure we know, like, we just like, oh, we wanted us to come with something similar to this thing. Let's do something more formal.
Can we put something on for the next ballot? Sorry, I know you, I mean, like not this November, but the following one to set up the next charter amendment council for success, so they get responses, make some sort of rules so they have to.
Really framework of some kind.
Just, that's really frustrating. When we asked for information, we didn't get it. Go ahead.
I would say, thank you. Oh my God, I'm so sorry. I would think we could do that regardless, right? Like it'd be nice to have a response. And I think there wasn't other instances where that hasn't happened, so maybe when we're like writing our packet, we could include in there like, here's a suggestion. And I think, yeah, if I understand Commissioner Stumpus, that we could work on the charter amendment beyond the ballot deadline, that would go to the following.
Yes, that's right. The following year.
I would like to clarify that I think that would take a motion to extend our working time, which I'm not sure everyone is willing and wanting to do.
Well, first we need the report to even render any decision as to what we do. I would think.
Should probably give them a chance to give us the answer.
Let's check in. Councilman Galloway tomorrow. Okay, sounds good. Okay. What's everybody doing? Do you need a break? Good, you got it. There's only one more thing. All right, so this new business thing is for staff to walk us through the process for serving on ballot for against committees.
Yeah, so I just want to make sure that you're all aware of how to participate on for and against committees. And I'm going to walk you through what's in the packet starting at page 11. So again, the deadline, all these deadlines are just going towards getting these for and against, getting the items on the ballot and then getting the for and against committees established. So tomorrow, we'll see how Cohen does on his amendments, but tomorrow, if you're scheduled to send out a press release to the public, letting them know that they can participate on for and against committees. We're going to list every single amendment with the new language. We're again required to do that by the state, that the public has to have an opportunity to apply to serve on the committee. Every committee can have up to 3 people for and against, so 6 people participating on one on each ballot issue. So the deadline for both you and for the public to submit your applications is July 14th. Do not think that because you're on this committee, you don't have to fill out the application. You do. Those applications will all go to the council. They will, just as maybe some of you have seen them do with you in terms of applying to an advisory committee, they will appoint 3 people to serve on the committee. They will not necessarily know that you are on this commission. So please write in there that you are a member of the Charter Review Commission. You can write in this was a amendment that you worked with, whatever you want to do. So I have an example, the next pages are an example of the pro and con, this does say pro. Sorry. The auditor uses for and against, and our office uses pro and con, but we're switching over to the auditor system. So this is what the form looks like that Jenna has created. It will be an online form, so you will receive an email tomorrow, hopefully, with a link to this form. You can serve on as many committees as you want to apply for and get appointed to. That's something to know. Let's see what else. So once the council appoints you or anyone else to a committee, that committee, the 3 members will decide which one of you is the chair of the committee. That will have to be reported to Jenna right here. You'll all get all this information again, but I'm just walking you through it. At July 28th at noon is the deadline for that. And I highlighted here for Jenna and me, this is the end of the council office involvement. So we're really excited for that moment. It then shifts over to the auditor and they're going to communicate with you from then on. So there are some deadlines for the auditor. Again, I'm looking at the first page. Let's go back a little bit. So July 22nd, I talked about that. That's the closest council meeting to the auditor's deadline. That's where they will vote to receive your amendments. They do not vote. They're not going to talk about them. They are solely going to vote to receive them. There will be no saying this is good, this is bad. And that's standard for, that's my understanding of how it's always been. They will then go through the committees and appoint them. It'll probably be a painful process because it always is, for those of you who have watched it. Jenna did include a line here on whether you will be able to attend a council meeting. Please know that if you want to do that, you are very welcome to do so virtually. There's no problem doing it virtually. You don't have to appear. You don't have to appear at the council meeting on July 22nd to get appointed. For advisory committees, we often recommend. They do really like it. They will ask if you want to speak sometimes, but maybe not for this one. So we always recommend for advisory committees, for those of you who sit on them, show up if you apply, give a little spiel by yourself. It does make a difference. Let's see. So after that, the council, we will submit to the auditor's office the official document that has been received by council with all of your amendments. And the titles according to Helen's final list. We will send the auditor the list of pro and con committees, and that's the point at which, after you submit a chair name, the auditor will then be communicating with you. Sorry, this is going on longer than I expected. So if you go through the form, the first thing we have is the next few pages are the form that you will fill out and send back to the council office. Again, all online, you just have to hit submit. You can sign up for every single committee at once if you want. Totally fine. So the next page, for and against statements, general information. This is just for your background. It shows some of the limits to what you can do, what you can't do, the word limits, you can italicize, you cannot do any other formatting, that kind of thing. The auditor's office will give you all this information again. The next page is the official auditor's summary. This is all summarizing what you can and cannot do when you write statements. And then just for your reference, page 19, I have the actual form that you will fill out and as if you are a committee chair and give to the auditor's office. It's going to be, I think, online. You can do it online. That's what it actually looks like. So this is the first time I had seen this, and you will submit this. They have some rules that you have to follow. You know, don't be lewd, for example. That's not okay. And then the final thing, the auditor's office came to visit me when they saw the packet and said, we want our information like from our little booklet here. So that's what this is. Overload information, but I wanted to make sure you have the official auditor's documentation. That's the overall process. You'll get this information in steps as you go along. You don't have to sit on any committees, but if you'd like to and you'd like to do that, this is how you're going to be able to do it. Questions? Yes.
By what process is the public made aware? Does it go on the county website? Like,
This is Jenna's job.
how do we make sure people know?
So it goes out in a press release. We put it on the website. We put it on our social media. We put it on bulletin boards. Since it goes out on social media, if you follow the council's account, you can go ahead and share it with the public too.
Yeah, you're all welcome to send it out when you get it. You'll get a copy from us on tomorrow afternoon probably, and you're welcome to send that out if you like. Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah, here, I was just wondering if somebody didn't use the interweb, could they submit this paper form to?
There are going to be paper copies. They can pick up in the office.
Any questions? I was curious what the deadline is for this commission's memo to council.
So we actually, I didn't write that in there, but it has to go, so, it has to be in our system for the July 22nd meeting. July 22nd is a Tuesday, it needs to be in our system the Tuesday before. Depends on who you ask, but if you ask my boss, it needs to be there at noon on Tuesday. And I'm not sure, actually, no, I don't know if Helen, I don't even know what that memo looks like. No, I'm close enough. Examples, yeah. So we'll take a look at the one from 2015. I've got that far in my head. And see what it looks like, but if we send one transmittal letter, I don't know if you all want to sign it, if one of you wants to sign it. You will have to vote at our next meeting on that, on the memo.
Yeah, that's my opinion. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
That's good information. I want to thank Commissioner Ellenboss for passing the cookies. That might have been a little auditory surprise for folks on Zoom, but a boost of sugar never hurt. Thank you. Are there any additional items for tonight from commissioners? Okay, so the last regularly scheduled meeting, as noted, our term goes through the end of December, but the last scheduled meeting that we have is Thursday, July 10th at 6 p.m. at the Whatcom County Courthouse Council Chambers. I would entertain a motion to adjourn. Second. Okay, are there, Commissioner Ellis.
Well, in light of the conversations we have, when you take a look at putting together that agenda, you might want to consider whether it's adjourn sine die, or whether it's just adjourn it, leaving the balance of the term open for some, as is perceived by this body going through December. Because if we do it sine die, it may be that the majority of the folks here do wish to just have an end and would rather go that way rather than have something crop up later.
I will say in the absence of Commissioner Muchler, that's a conversation that he wants to have. So I expect that would be something, we'd like to put that on the agenda for next meeting. As a body, whether we formally decide to continue. That's something for us to talk about. So, we have a motion and a second to adjourn. Are there any opposed to doing this by consent? All those in favor of adjourning, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Meeting is adjourned at a record-breaking 7:02.